Welcome to another episode of Mental Odyssey. My name is Sarah, and today I am joined by the one, the only, the husband.
That's me.
It is. I'm glad you know that. So today's episode, the goal is to talk about finances. Finances in a relationship.
Do you have a boo button?
A boo button? No, I don't think so.
Oh, damn.
I think I have the wah, wah, wah.
That'll work.
Oh.
Nope.
I guess finances. That could work. That could work.
Yeah, dude, for some people.
That could work. The number one leading cause of divorce in America.
Yep. It is.
There we go. It's the green one.
That also applies to the divorce statement.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I could try all that again and actually get it in line. But we won't.
You shouldn't clown on it. It's a very serious topic.
It is a very serious topic, and a lot of people are not having this conversation. That's how it be these days.
Yep.
There's not a lot of people. Okay, I take that back. There are quite a few people that do not pay attention to their finances, do not have a budget of what goes in and out, have no idea how much realistically comes in on a monthly term, and has no idea what goes out on a monthly term. Like, scary.
You know what else surprises me?
What?
There's a lot of folks out there who encourage other people not to have joint finances. Like, they were like, don't have joint finances. If you get divorced, it's going to be messier. But you're not playing on the same team.
Right.
If that's the case. You're
if you're planning your marriage on the idea that
contingency.
maybe you would get divorced, you're probably going to get divorced.
Yeah.
Most likely. Will you help me? My mic is like falling. Can you tighten this, please?
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah. Is that the right way? Look at all that extra you were able to tighten it.
Yeah. Dude.
Versus when I was able to tighten it.
That thing
I
wasn't
did my
tight at all.
best. I did my best. That was my best.
That was almost
you
a full
believe it?
rotation.
I don't want your best.
I don't want your best. I want you to do good.
Do you have the water still? I need the water. I'll have to cut like this whole first little bit for the ASMR folks out there.
Put the mic up to your throat.
Gotta do the at the end. Anyway, so I thought that it would be a good idea to kind of go on a financial journey. Okay, starting from how we grew up thinking and believing about money, how it was when we first started making our own money, how it was when we started dating, and then like the things that we've adjusted in our relationship and in our marriage to like change our beliefs about money or whatever it is. So, do you want to go first or do you want me to?
You can go first. I
Yeah.
feel like I go first a lot.
Okay. Well, so growing up in my family, I feel like the idea about money that was pushed is that like you need to be on top of it or it will all go away. Is basically like how I understood money. Like I knew that money problems were happening, but I don't feel like I was like physically affected by it. Like my needs were met, like we had a nice house, you know, like I would say middle class probably is how it would be considered. But
Maybe not
Anyway.
anymore, but
What?
maybe not anymore.
Right. I mean, the goal line has changed pretty significantly since I was young.
Yeah.
But that's how we grew up. But I knew that there was like never enough money. Right? It wasn't like we're broke, but it's like there's never enough. So, I feel like there was a large emphasis on being on top of money. Now knowing more as an adult, like having conversations with my mom and stuff, like they very much were struggling for a large portion of their marriage with finances. Like she was constantly having to like rob Peter to pay Paul type thing is how she talks to it. So
Excuse me. What?
having to rob Peter to pay Paul. It's like moving the money to where like you're just scraping by.
It's not a good day for allergies today. Dude.
It is not. I'm pretty sure there's a fire nearby.
Fall is upon us.
Yeah. And we're about to go to the fair where there's farm animals.
Yeah,
Back
dude.
on topic. Anyway. Yeah, I would say that that was the main understanding of finances that I had. Like, wait, should we go back and forth? Or should we just tell, like, the complete thing? You want to tell your childhood and then, like, when we started making money?
Yeah.
Okay.
We should go, like, up to our first job. But for you, that's still your teenage years, so.
Okay. So, like, keep talking about
Yeah.
it? Okay. So, I got my first job when I was 15. It would have been 14, but my first job was at an amusement park. And
Which amusement park?
we all know which amusement park.
Well, we don't. Maybe not everyone listens in this state.
It was Lagoon Amusement Park, and they are known for having underage employees.
Yep.
They start hiring at 14, but their season starts in April, and my birthday was in June.
Labor.
Yes, because they can pay them less.
Yep.
So,
And the dollars mean more to the kids, so.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Win-win.
So I wanted to work the season where I was 14, but I couldn't because I was 13 when they were hiring. So I had to wait till I was 14 and wait till the next year, basically. I hate that that's going to be in the background of me talking. Ew.
All right, I'll keep it to a minimum, dude, but
I can hear that it's not a good allergy day for you.
no. Should we even be doing this right now? Do you want me to bow out?
No, I don't.
All right.
It's fine. It's just
fine.
not going to be fun for the listeners.
I'm sorry.
Sorry in advance. It's like the COVID podcast all over again.
Oh, yeah, we did one of those, didn't we?
Yeah. Anyway, so I got my first job at 15, and I was making $6.25 an hour. Rolling in the dough. Part-time work. It was a hot job. Out in the sun most of the time. Like, Lagoon does not care about childhood heat stroke. They don't care about the comfort. They're like, hey, will you do this for $6.25? And we said, you bet your ass we will. So anyway, shortly after, when I turned 16, I got a second job. So I was doing the Lagoon, and then I also started working at Arctic Circle. And I was making some decent money. And I had a car. So how I started using my money was like, I'm going to take my friends out and we gon' eat. Like, oh, you don't have money? That's not what I asked. I asked if you wanted to go and get this. Like, and even with that, I was really on top of my finances. By the time that I moved out when I was 17, I had $10,000 saved up.
Nice.
Yeah. Like, I was like squirreling that shit away because I was raised on the idea that, like, if you do not track that shit, it will escape you and you will have none of it. Like, You have to track it. You have to save it. You have to be intentional about the dollars and how they're moving. Otherwise, it's all going to be gone. Which I then learned when I was 17 and moved out on my own into a different situation in my relationship. And yeah, that money was gone quick. It was gone so fast because my partner at the time had a very different understanding of how money worked. So that's another thing that I've realized through my time is that, or I guess through different relationships, is that the way that my partner has acted with money has drastically shifted the way that I've acted with money in my life.
Naturally.
Because in that relationship, my first like big one, I was like financially bound. Like I ended up being the breadwinner for quite some time, and we never were secure with finances. We just bought whatever we wanted. We were kids. We were just kids living in an apartment with 2 kids, like playing house. 2 kids and a dog. Like it was something else. And then my next big relationship, the belief about money and the reaction around money was completely different because her beliefs about money were like, we will never have enough, so you have to be as frugal as possible. Like you have to make sure that you have a large stack of cash in your emergency fund. Otherwise, we are absolutely broke. You're not spending a penny on anything. Like,
in a way, that's a good philosophy.
yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. It was stressful. It was very stressful. It was like the first time that I was not stressed about money in a while because I knew, like, I had seen money come and go for many years at that point. So I was more comfortable with seeing it come and go, and she definitely was not. And so it definitely changed with each relationship. You want to share your part now? What did you think growing up and then into your...
Well, I was thinking about this after you had brought up the suggestion yesterday. Because, like, I didn't really have an idea of money as a kid. Like, I never saw my parents budgeting. We didn't really talk about money. And I remember there was one time in 6th grade. Dude, this is fucked. I don't know if we should be recording a podcast today. This is a bad day for this. So in 6th grade, it was like I forget the name of the class after so many years. It wasn't quite home economics, but they actually taught us how to write checks. This guy in particular, there wasn't any cooking equipment or anything like that, but he would be like teaching us safe temperatures of food, which I was like, that's kind of weird. Even thinking about that, it's a little weird. No one's going to retain that information. But he taught us how to write checks and how to budget. And he's like, go home and ask your parents how they budget. And when I asked my mom how she budgeted, she said, don't worry about it, son. You're too young for that. And I'm like, well, it's for school. What am I supposed to tell him? And she's like, just tell him you're too young for that. She said some other stuff too, but I can't remember. Well, that's what stuck with me. Is like, don't worry about it, son. There were a few things where I either got the don't worry about it, son. It's none of your business. You're too young for that. I just think she didn't want to talk about it.
Fair. Fair.
She didn't want to talk about it at all. So I didn't really have a budgeting talk or anything like that, but I did do a lot of yard work and snow shoveling and whatnot. Like what I was 10 or 11, I can't remember, one of those two. But my mom gets me up at like 6 in the morning on a Sunday, and she's like, come on, son, you're going to go shovel this church parking lot. And I'm like, why? And she's like, because they need someone to shovel the parking lot, right? So she sits in her car and is reading her book this whole time while I'm shoveling an entire parking lot. Now, when I was 11, it was a lot bigger. It felt like a gigantic parking lot because it was parking lot and sidewalks.
Oh, God.
Yeah, the whole thing. But looking back on it, it could have been just like a small parking lot. And then on our way over there, she said, if they offer to pay you, you say that you're doing it for free because it builds character. Now, I said that because that's what I was told to say. But the gal who showed up first, I don't think she was the minister or bishop or whoever. I don't know who she was. But she definitely dipped into the tithing and gave me $70. Yeah, $70.
After you're like, no, it's for free. I'm
building character. Anyways, I took that $70 and blew it on, I don't even remember what, candy, snacks. I'm pretty sure I went and saw a couple of movies, though. The Boys and Girls Club, I would frequent that, and they had a vending machine, so it was definitely spent on the vending machine. But there wasn't a conversation. First of all, it was kind of my fault because I didn't tell my mom because she's like, she's going to take my money. I know she's going to take my money.
Yeah.
She said do it for free, and I got money, and she's going to take it. I don't know if she was or wasn't. I didn't give her the opportunity. I just kept it a secret. Anyways, so there was never a conversation about how to budget my money. I always just spent it, or I would save it for something that I wanted from the store. But other than that, it was impulse stuff.
Right.
It was like, I want to save it. I want to spend it.
Mm.
It wasn't hey, let's have a conversation about the value of $1.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't think I even had any budgeting talks until I started borrowing money from my grandparents as a teenager, where you're like, hey, Grandpa, can I have some money to go to the mall? And like, yeah, he'd give me like $20, $30, something like that. But boy, it would be like an hour-long lecture of how you need to budget your money. So I was like, oh, God. Come on, Grandpa. I don't care about this. I just want to go to the mall. Did the little hair flip.
I'm too young for that.
Yep. Took that $30 straight into Hot Topic.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Or the pretzel stand. One of the two. Dude, those pretzels
Both.
are unmatched.
A little bit of both.
But either way, it was spending it. I didn't
Right.
care what he was saying about budgeting it.
Right.
And it wasn't until years later where I recognized the value of those lectures, where, like, I still probably would have tuned him out if it was a lecture, but I should have asked a few questions because it was the first time where someone had actually taught me how to,
Think
or
about
not
money.
taught me how, but, like, said, hey, you need to be a little smarter than just spending it.
Right.
So, and then, little off topic, but there was a time a little bit later. I didn't ask for money. I just said I was going to the mall, and he's like, here's a couple of bucks, and he gave me $7.
Aw.
And I'm like, I really appreciate the sentiment. This will get me a pretzel, but that's about it.
Yeah.
That's about it. The mall is not a place to save money. You're going to overpay for everything there.
Yeah.
But it was a nice sentiment. I always remember that. But, so then I got my job. My first job was at 18. I was a little late to the game, but I had always done side work. So I was always mowing lawns and shoveling snow, raking leaves, basically anything I can to make money. Yeah. And it was all under the table. So I never had to report anything or anything like that. It was just straight cash that you didn't track and went out just as fast. Like, if I knew I'd be going out with my friends, or like we're going to go party or something and I needed beer money, I would just go like work. And back then I was only like 17.
Right.
So it's like, hey, I need a little extra cash. You just walk the neighborhood. Can I do anything to help you out for a little extra cash? And I was wearing my Richland Bombers hoodie, even though I didn't go to Richland High School anymore.
That would definitely like up the ante.
Oh yeah, I knew my
people.
market.
Yeah.
I knew my market for sure.
They're like, oh, you're a bomber.
Yeah. I actually went and I bought a Hanford High hoodie. It was from Goodwill or something like that. And so then when I would change neighborhoods, I'd switch hoodies into a Hanford sweater.
That's hilarious. Work the market.
Oh, I worked the market. I sapped it up and I cleaned house. There was one day I just walked the neighborhood around my mom's house shoveling snow after it had snowed. I was out there for maybe 7 hours. But like, the other thing too is I was carrying the shovel in one arm, I don't know the actual name of this tool, but it's it's like a shovel, but instead of being designed for a shovel, it's just a flat blade.
Mm.
And I used it to chip off the ice from like running over the snow and creating ice.
Right.
So I'd use it to actually get that off of people's driveway. And then I had a backpack where I would carry a big bag of ice melt and just throw down some ice melt after. I went the extra mile, dude. I was out there for 7 hours and I made about $450.
Damn.
Yep. Because I did
crazy.
that. But then people's driveways were spotless. And I had already been shoveling snow for 5-6 years at that point.
I'm a pro at this.
Yeah, I'm like, I know what I'm doing.
I have my 10,000 hours.
So, and I think it also helped me out because they're like, oh, wow, you did a really good job. Ice melt? Yeah, dude, here's $50. I think there was only like 2 or 3 people that paid me $50. And there was this one guy who I came, shoveled his walkway, and I would always say, when they say, how much do you charge? I would always say, whatever you think is fair. Because, like, I was just there to get the work in. It literally built character. Like, what pisses me off, and unless she listens to this episode, she'll never hear it from my mouth. What pisses me off is she was right. It did build character. Just not in the way that you would think. Just like later on, I actually had some character about it, and it taught me to take pride in my work.
Right.
But this one guy, so I shovel his driveway, I do give him the whole 9 yards, and then he gives me $1. He gives me $1. Oh, I don't have to censor myself. He gives me a fucking $1. One.
Just
now this dude, he had a driveway probably about 1 lane bigger than the one we have here. So, because he had a 3-car garage.
Mm.
So I did that, the walkway to his house and his sidewalk. And it was on a pretty big incline. So it was a bit of a pain, especially if you didn't get all the snow up. Yeah, you slip a little bit. It was a bit of pain. He gave me $1. And I was like, the other thing that I would do is I would never count it in front of them. I would take it, say, thank you for the work, put it in my pocket, and leave. And I didn't realize until afterwards when I would walk, because I would count my money. But that happened to be the last house on the block. And as soon as I rounded the corner, I pulled out. I was like, that motherfucker, he gave me $1.
What a dick.
I was out there for a half hour. This ain't fair. But then I'm like, there have been a lot of old people who have overpaid me. So, like,
it
evens out. Like, there's a lot of times where I got more money than I should have. So,
yeah.
I wasn't all that mad about it. But I was shoveling again, like 2 weeks later, it snowed again. So, I was, like, shoveling some more driveways in his area. And he actually waved at me. And I'm like, oh, this son of a bitch. And he was an old black man. I don't remember where he came from, but it was somewhere down south. So honestly, talking to him was kind of fun. I liked the way that he talked. But he waves me down. He says, young man, can you shovel my walkway again? I got to go. I'll be back in a half hour and I'll pay you when you're done. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I can do that. Right. So I shovel it. I'm not happy the whole time. I'm like, this son of a bitch. But like, he was the only black guy on the block, so if I didn't give him the same quality of work I gave everyone else, I might look racist.
You're like, it's not about that.
I'm like,
it's
no,
about
trust
the money.
me, it's not about
He's
that.
Cheap.
He paid me $1 last time, dude. He doesn't deserve to get these tire tracks wiped off.
Literally, do it yourself.
Anyways, so I get it all done, and he comes back. He came back shortly before I finished up because just because it took a while. And I finish up, and I knock on his door. I say, hey, I'm finished. And he says, all right, wait right here. And he comes back, and he hands me a $100 bill.
Damn.
And I was like, I actually told him in that moment, because there were some times where I got handed too much money. I'm like, sir, I can't accept this. And I told him that. I said, sir, I can't accept this. This is way too much money for the work that you gave me. And he said, young man, I gave you $1 last time, and you didn't complain. He's like, I know the value of your character. This money isn't just for my driveway. It's for being an upstanding young man.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was like, sir, this is the greatest compliment I've ever received in my life.
You're like, I was wrong about you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that dude was really cool about it. And I'm like, how did you know I'd even return? I didn't ask him, but I was thinking, I'm like, $1. Most kids wouldn't return. He actually said that too. He said most kids wouldn't come back or they wouldn't agree to do it, and you did it for me. So he was a really nice guy. Real nice guy. I don't remember if I ended up delivering his paper or not, but whatever. He was cool. So, long story short, I had always had a steady flow of income, but I was always spending it almost as fast. Because I would also plan for it like, oh, I'm going to go out with my friends on Friday. So all week long after school or something, figure out like go rake leaves, mow lawns, something to make money. But I knew I would have a plan for it almost as fast.
Right.
And then when I got my first job at 18, I was working at Wendy's, had a consistent paycheck. It was really nice to have money. However, also my partner at the time had high standards, I would say.
Expectations.
High expectations, yeah. And I would remember, what I remember fondly, I already didn't like Christmas, but when Christmas would come around, she'd give me a list of things to buy her. And I made the mistake the first year that, not the first year we were together, because that was still high school. And it was still in that like honeymoon phase. It was the first Christmas that we were together, so anything really suffices, right? The next year, she had like 2 or 3 specific wants, and one of those was a bit over my budget, so I didn't get it, and she fought with me about it for like 2 days.
Ew.
Yeah, and then the next year was even worse because it was a bigger list, and I had a job, and I was out of high school already, so it was a bigger list, and it was stuff from like Mac. Is Mac still around?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was stuff from Mac, specific items throughout the mall. Not cheap.
Right.
Not cheap at all.
Right.
Like Victoria's Secret, Mac makeup, Hot Topic, you name it.
On high school money? On just
Fresh
out of high school money?
Yeah, dude. I was making like $230 a week.
Yeah.
If I was lucky. My paychecks were maybe $300 every
She's
2
like,
weeks.
I only wanted 4 $230 items. What's the problem?
Well, no, that was one of our fights. She's like, I only wanted 6 things. I'm like, bitch, those fucking items cost $2,000.
Literally.
You have any idea how many leaves I had to rake to even get the 4 out of 6?
Literally.
Oh, dude. So, yeah, it was like I had to please constantly in that relationship, and it got old fast. I mean, I tried to break up with her 6 months in, and that didn't go over well, and I should have. I should have left. I should have, but I didn't.
Yep.
But every like birthday had to be over the top, and if I didn't get her exactly what she wanted, it was a fucking show.
All of, exactly.
Yeah. I remember it was her 18th birthday, and to her credit, she was pretty good at making cakes. She was pretty good. She made this like Harley Quinn cake because it was her favorite. So she had made this cake, and she put a lot of time into it. She used a lot of fondant. I hate fondant.
Ew.
Yeah, it's disgusting. She made me eat it.
Sick.
Yeah. She was like, oh, you're going to offend me if you don't eat it. I'm like, bitch, it's fondant. Nobody likes fondant.
Yeah, nobody likes.
Tastes like sugared Play-Doh.
Children like fondant.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And they shouldn't.
And they shouldn't.
Anyways, so she wanted a bunch of stuff from a store called Hastings. I don't know if you had any of those around these parts.
We did.
Okay. So
we had one in Idaho.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, there were some in Idaho. So she wanted a bunch of stuff from Hastings. This is her 18th birthday. I was still working at Wendy's, didn't have a lot of money, but I came through anyway, and I got her the specific items that she wanted at the time. Portal was pretty big. You ever play that? No. So it's a really fun game, but there are these cubes that have little hearts on it, and they marketed, and probably the dopest ice maker or ice cube tray that I've ever had. It was just a set of 6, but they were like the same little heart cubes, and they were gigantic.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, so she wanted those 2. This really expensive blanket. It was for like Harley Quinn themed. All this stuff. And it ended up costing me about $250 for everything that she had wanted. But I was like, and I think this was, no, this was after the first Christmas fight. But I actually wanted to do it because I'm like, this is a landmark birthday. So I wanted to. But the thing is, um, I kind of split the gifts a little bit. So like at home, this was in the basement of my mom's house before it was a shit show. But it still had carpet down there. I put like streamers and balloons, and I wrapped the gifts and all that, and I had like her favorite cake there for like a separate little party for just us after all the craziness had died down, right? So at the birthday party, bought all the gifts, split them, and she threw a fit because they weren't all there, and I accidentally left the receipt in one of the boxes, dude. So this one, man, I haven't seen this guy in years. My cousin Micah. So I left the receipt in there by accident. And she pulls out. She's like, "How much did you spend?" I'm like, I yanked it out of her hand. I said, "Micah, eat it." And he eats the receipt. He ate it. He ate the receipt. And I was like, "Dude, nice. I didn't think you were actually going to eat
What
that."
a homie.
I didn't think he was actually going to eat it, but he did. So returns were impossible at that point. But I didn't want her finding out, and then she was pissed, and like it was at the river at Leslie Groves Park, and Micah and I were swimming. I was done with her shit, so I was like, you know what, I want to go swimming. I'm gonna go swim with my cousin, and so I go out there, and she starts throwing rocks at me.
Ew.
Yeah, and one hit me in the head, conveniently on the same spot where I already had a scar.
She stoned you?
Yeah, one had hit me in the head, and it's on the same spot. It's kind of like two scars, I think now, but where that scar is on the left side of my head was from a childhood thing, but she hit me around that same spot and I was bleeding, and in the water it looks a lot worse. But I got hit, and I was like, if you throw one more rock, I'm going to take like I told her friends, because her friends were like, dude, what is wrong with you? She's like super upset. This is her birthday. Why didn't you make it special? So before this is before the rock incident, they asked me that, and I said, look, like, what she doesn't know is I have another party planned at home for just us. Like, there's streamers and shit over there. And I have the rest of the gifts that she asked for, but I just didn't want to give them all here. I want it to be a special time with just the two of us. And both of them were like, oh, that's so sweet. And anyway, so after I got hit, I was like, hey, you throw one more rock, I'm going to burn those presents at home. I'm going to give them to children in need.
I'm gonna give a child some MAC makeup.
No, this wasn't MAC makeup. It was a little before then. But anyways, on the point. We were talking about money. I got sidetracked. I did the very thing that I said don't do. So that bitch caused me to spend a lot of money. It wasn't about saving. It wasn't about anything but her.
Right.
So after that, and another thing, let me back up a little bit. Going in my childhood, we never had conversations about money, but with like groceries and stuff and food in the house, it's not that we didn't have food, it's that there were very strict rules about it.
Right.
At least I felt that way.
It needs to last.
Right. That may or may not have been the case, but from my perspective, like there was very strict rules around the food. So when I turned 18, and this goes into what I was saying. So when I turned 18, beyond what she was making me spend, loose quotes, she didn't make me do a damn thing. I got to own up to a little bit
choice.
Yeah, I chose. But it was also the first time that I had money, the first time I had disposable income, and one of the first times that I didn't have any rules about food anymore.
Right.
So like I was spending money on food, fast food everywhere, Taco Bell. I worked at Wendy's when they first came out with that ghost pepper sandwich and the fries. Bro, I ate 6 of those fries in one sitting.
God damn.
Oh, dude, they were so good. Because we got a 50% discount, so I only paid for 3 of them.
Crazy.
Yeah. Those were delicious. Oh, my God. I am so glad they never came back with the original recipe, because I would go nuts. I would go nuts on those things. Anyways, so I was still spending my money as fast as it was coming in, and our bills were paid. But I was still spending money. And then after we broke up, kind of the same thing, except now we break up, and like a few months later I turned 21, Yeah. Then I
So now you can buy
discovered.
alcohol.
Well, I didn't discover the joys of alcohol at that point. I'd already been drinking a little bit here
But
and
now
there.
you can buy it.
But now I can buy it. Now it's completely unregulated.
You have money for
And
it and an ID to prove you're 21.
at my apartment, you know Joe's
Yeah.
over in Richland, right?
Yeah.
Right there. It's a 4-minute walk away, and that dude would sell bottles of Sailor Jerry for $20 plus tax. It was like $28, $30, something like that for a whole bottle, and it's right there. And then you got that paired with the Galaxy Mart guy who'd sell the bags of ice for $1. It's $1.50 now, but still, like a whole bag of ice for $1. Mexican Cokes, the works. And then you got Round Table with their deal where you could get an extra large 1-topping pizza, six Parmesan twists, and a 2-liter for $23. And I took advantage of that deal every damn weekend. Minimum. My fridge was not stocked with good stuff. It was like steak, Hot Pockets, hot
Leftover
dogs.
pizza.
Not hot dogs. It was bratwurst. Leftover pizza. My freezer was full of ice and liquor. Fridge was stocked with ciders. Yeah. So that unregulated spending paired with the fact that I went from strict rules to no rules, I went way over the top. I gained so much weight. I didn't save a damn thing.
Spend so much money.
Yeah. Yeah. And then even in my next relationship, like, same thing. She didn't have the same expectations. She was a different person altogether, but still not great with money. Spent it all. And, yeah, it wasn't until I met you that I actually got really good with finances. So, because I was making a stupid amount of money at that job. A stupid amount of money just for throwing papers, dude. It was ridiculous how much money I made doing
Yes, agreed.
And so now we'll lead that into the depth of our finances. So when we had met, I think I had like a 520 credit score, something like that. And that was one of the conversations
and a bank account to
that
match.
we first had.
The credit score only matters with the bank account.
Yeah. Yeah, like $5.20.
Like
not $520.
That you borrowed from grandma.
Yeah, 100%. I was borrowing money from my grandma. Because like how it would go is I would borrow money from her, pay her back on my next paycheck, then be bad with my money, need to borrow money again, rinse and repeat for week after week after week.
I think you're missing one of the most important points.
What?
You got paid weekly.
Oh yeah, no, I got paid weekly.
Weekly.
That's why I said like week after week after week.
Yeah.
And I was making a stupid amount of money too.
Stupid amount of money. And not setting aside for taxes.
Not setting aside for taxes. I hadn't filed my taxes in a couple of years by the time we met. When I actually filed them, it was 4 years. It was on that 5th year that I filed my taxes for all the back taxes and stuff. Jesus, dude. I owed so much money to the IRS. It was ridiculous. So one of the first conversations that we had when we were starting our relationship is, what's your credit score? And you asked this question. I did not ask this question. Of course I asked this question. Right, because it doesn't matter as much to me. I'm like, ooh, fucking credit score, who cares? Me, bitch. Yeah.
Your wife.
And I was like,
soon to be
I don't
wife.
know. I didn't even have Credit Karma downloaded at that point. So I downloaded Credit Karma that night. I remember being on the phone with you while downloading Credit Karma. And I was inside of that retirement home on 9770. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know the one.
Yeah, I do.
Right across from the gas station.
Yeah.
And so I downloaded it, signed in, did all that. Because I was sitting in their lobby. I was just like, yeah, it is what it is. Checked it, and I was like, 520. And you're like, are you fucking kidding me?
Is this a joke?
And I was like,
How
what?
do you fuck up that bad?
It's not that bad. It was that bad. I don't know. Plus 500 is not that bad. Below 5 is bad. It's god awful.
I don't know. 500's pretty
bad. It's bad. Because I had the apartment on there. See, the only thing though is I don't think that one was fair. The one from when I broke the lease with Brittany, just because they did not give me the opportunity to pay it. So like instead of, because the terms were, we rent it out until under your name until we find someone and then we bill you, right? But instead of calling me and saying, hey, we found someone, you owe us $1,300 or whatever it was, because I was actually going to pay that one. That one I was legitimately going to pay. Credit cards, But
just hearing the statement, that one I was actually going to pay.
You got to understand that I had 2 charge-offs already.
That is some bad financial
It's fucking horrible. Yeah, but I say that because I had 2 credit cards that I charged off and had no intention of paying anyway. And charged off does not mean you don't pay them.
No.
Just for those listening, if you ever have something charged off, it doesn't mean you are free and clear. Yeah. You still have to pay that.
That just means it's in collections and you're going to get your phone blown up.
And I knew that, and I still wasn't going to pay him. Every time, like, dude, I'd say every week I was getting maybe 6 calls from either Credit One or Capital One saying, pay us, bitch. And I'm like, next week. Click. Over and over. But anyways, that one I was legitimately going to pay because, like, I might have not given a shit about credit cards, but I cared about my rental history. Like, that one actually mattered to me, so I was going to pay them the moment the bill came in. But instead, I got a call from a third-party collections company right away.
Yep.
They didn't bother sending me a bill or calling me or anything. They sent it immediately to collections.
That's rude.
And it went on my record as collections. So that one is the only one I wouldn't say is fair, but it's definitely karma from all the other shit that I had going on.
Yeah.
So, it was my fault, and it wasn't smart to break the lease anyway. But so I had the charge-offs. I had that in collections. Did I get served when we were together for the repo? I repossessed it before we were together.
Yeah.
But I don't remember if I got served when we were together or not.
I don't remember you being served, and I feel like I would have.
You probably would have, because I freaked the fuck out, dude.
Yeah.
And technically speaking, the person that served those papers did not do it properly. Like, if I had cared more about the law and not the fact that I had been served with a lawsuit, then I would have taken it to court and said, I was not served properly. This is not legal. Mm. Because he didn't give it to me. He gave it to my mom. He said, are you Tomas or Mrs. Bin? And there was no Mrs. Bin. She's like, and he just said, here, you've been served, sweetheart. Because, like, he didn't verify who it was. Because it said to Mr. or Mrs. Bin. There was no Mrs.
Call that shit out.
What?
I'm not putting our last name out there.
Who the fuck cares?
Me the fuck cares.
All right, so don't censor out everything except the words. Just, like, bleep it if you can. Yeah. Anyways, so he didn't bother checking to see if that was even the right person because there was no Mrs. last name. So technically, I was never served. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, long story short, I had the repo. I had the collections. I had 2 charge-offs.
IRS
I had a shitload of debt. I had IRS debt and a 520 credit score. And you were like, what I'm now realizing is that you saw enough potential in me to see past that, and I know how much money means to you.
Yeah, like, that's honestly, it was like walking past every fucking red flag that could be waved in my face.
Yeah. You did.
Like,
it takes balls. Yeah.
Yeah.
You saw enough potential in me to move past that.
Yes, I did.
But also, I started working on it right when we started talking about it. Because the biggest thing is that nobody had taught me how to be smart with money. Sure. Like, when I asked my mom about getting a credit card, so I opened up my bank account when I was 18 because I got my graduation money, and it was like $100. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to go put this in a bank account and start up my own bank account. And now that I'm 18, I don't need it. That's another reason why I didn't have anyone on my account before. I didn't have anyone on that account because I didn't want my parents in control of my money.
Fair.
So, because it's not that, I mean, maybe that led to where we are, but I don't think they would have had a conversation about it anyway.
Right. It would have just been control, and eventually they would release the control and you'd be exactly where you were, but older.
Yeah, pretty much. And then when I asked my mom about getting a credit card, she's like, don't do it.
That's
it
not
was
a
a
good,
don't.
that's
There
not
was
a
no
good
conversation
answer.
about you need one because you need a credit score, but so help me, you better pay that son of a bitch off.
Right.
Because it hurts. There was no conversation about
Right.
interest. There was no conversation about credit limit. There was no conversation about how a credit score works. None of that shit. And I think it's partially because even she didn't know.
Right.
And it was a lot easier to say, don't get one, abstinence, and then come across like she knew what she was doing,
Right.
as opposed to, I don't know dick about it. You have to talk to somebody else. But like, so that led, I got a Capital One card. First limit was $300, and then I got a Bath and Body Works one, which turns out after I started working there, I learned that Bath and Body Works and Victoria's Secret are owned by the same company, so that credit card works at both places. Being in a relationship with the person I was who wanted to spend money at both places, guess whose limit got maxed out pretty quick?
Literally,
this guy. Yeah, so that one was I would say that's my shortest lived credit card because it's the second one that I got and the first one that I canceled.
Yeah.
And it was paid off. That one was paid off when I canceled it. But what else?
You know, real quick, as you're talking about the credit score, it makes me very grateful for the way that my mom and my dad set me up credit-wise, because my mom made a lot of financial mistakes in her 20s. Like, she did not use credit cards correctly, and that followed her for a very long time in her life.
It's going to follow me into my 30s.
So she went above and beyond to make sure that I had a better understanding of how to use credit cards, if you are going to use credit cards, how to take advantage of the credit system rather than the credit system taking advantage of you.
It's very wise.
And they started my credit. They put me as an authorized user on one of their cards at a pretty young age. So my credit history started building before I was 18. And then I got my own credit card as soon as I could, which I'm pretty sure was before I was 18 as well.
I don't think you can get your own before you're 18.
I'm pretty sure that I did because it was a student one.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I could fact check if you actually want me to. I could fact check.
Not right now. We gotta do this podcast. But yes, put a pin in that because I want to know. Because now we can't allow minors to apply on credits.
I'm just gonna pull it up on my credit card real quick. Just real quick. It'll take just a second.
I'm gonna teabag my drink over there.
Okay. Do you want to move this table over so you can have your tea? Okay.
Yeah. Mute the mics.
That. I'm just gonna pause it. Yeah. So my oldest credit card is 20 years old. So I was 7 when I was added to that one.
It's whack.
And then the next oldest is 9 years. So I was 18 when those were open. But either way, I've been building it that entire time, and I was taught how to use a credit card. I would never even let it cycle for a month. Like, the only times that I have used credit cards and accrued interest is in this relationship.
Yeah.
With intention. When
you cried at me about that once.
What?
You cried at me about that once.
Yeah. It means a lot to me to not do that because I've been taught my whole life how to not fucking do that. And then to be mindfully doing that with intention, I was like, it doesn't feel right, but I know that I'm making an educated decision and we don't have, like our options were limited at that moment because we were taking a chance on your career.
Yes. which
So,
shout out.
yeah.
And the time that we accrued the interest was where it was actually our better option. But the fact that you took it so seriously and the fact that we paid it off so quickly, or prioritized paying it off.
Right.
Quickly,
I was going to say we are still paying it off.
We prioritize it and factor it into the budget and pay it off aggressively.
Right.
I would not have done that if I were with somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no one ever showed me how to utilize the system like your mom showed you.
Right.
And I abused it. I abused it, but also I was taken advantage of by the system.
Right.
I am the perfect target for those people.
Oh, for sure.
I'm not the perfect target.
You are
anymore,
the person that the 40% interest rate on a credit card and the 18 to 20+% APR on a car.
That car that I got repoed, the Honda Fit. When I bought it, I had a 638 on my credit score. And so it was like 2 points away from being into the next category. But so it was 638, and my interest rate on that was 24.9%.
That's insane.
On a fucking car.
I have never had higher than a 3.6.
Well, this place, it's known for being able to finance. I would say predatory. But the way they market is little or no credit, bad, little or no credit history.
Which means they're going to be charging you out the ass.
Yes.
It's crazy how predatory the credit system is if you let it take advantage of you.
Yep.
It will continue to do it. And if you are a person that's you're not going to say, I don't have the money. If you're always going to find a way, you are the person that they are going after. Because it's okay, then I just have to go to the place that says they finance everybody. Or, there's a place around here that's Lucky's Auto Credit or something like that. It basically, they pride themselves, or they're not pride themselves. Their slogan is basically we approve everybody.
I've seen those signs.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the system is set up to be very predatory against those people. And something that I was thinking about earlier, it sounds like your idea about money that you were raised on, and correct me if I'm wrong, is somewhat lackadaisical, but also abstinence.
I wouldn't say it's lackadaisical. I would say abstinence, but my parents had 4 kids. You could not be lackadaisical about your money.
Right.
I know they were talking about money. I don't know how. I don't know when. I just know that it happened, and I don't even know if it was much of a conversation.
Right.
I'm sure it was an argument.
Right.
But there's no way it was lackadaisical.
I guess I'm going to correct what I was saying. When you started making money, the way that you handled it is oh, I can always make more.
Oh,
it doesn't matter what I spend, I can always make more.
That is true. I was lackadaisical about that because I did. I had 3 jobs at one point. And that was, it's funny to think about. Each part of my life, I took little segments along with me. But you're right, in that time where I was oh, I'm short on money, I can always just make more. And then I went out and made more.
And spent it.
And then spent it just as fast.
Right.
And then it was just this cycle, and I burned myself out. I got sick from those 3 jobs. I had to quit one of them. And it led to that. There were a couple of weekends where I worked from Friday morning at 5 a.m, and I did not get off until Sunday at 4 a.m, because all 3 of those jobs were back to back on the weekend. Ew. Yeah, and it was during the holiday season, so I had a seasonal temp job at Bath and Body Works. Then I did my regular job at Value Village, and then I had my weekend job at Denny's, or being a host in the graveyard shift on Friday and Saturday nights. So I lasted 3 weekends doing that, working almost 48 hours straight with an hour in between each shift. And I put a lot of energy drinks on the credit card on those weekends, for sure.
Real quick to go back to what I was saying, like,
sorry,
the energy that you had is like abstinence. Like, we don't really talk about it. We don't, that. And then when you had it, it was like, I'll be able to like make more. I think the energy that my family gave around it is very anxious, like a very anxious energy. Because it's like you always have to be on top of that shit. You got to be checking. You got to be doing, Like,
my first thought is like, you're very lucky for that, but also there is a drawback.
Yeah. I nag at you a whole lot because it's like...
Jesus Christ, thank you for saying it. Oh, my God.
Because it's like a pain point for me almost.
Yeah.
Like, it's such an important part of the structure to me of having, like, a decent future. Like, I know for a fact that we need to start saving for retirement right now to take full advantage of the long-term payoffs of putting your money in. Like, if we start right now, I know that that's going to change.
See, I had two teachers, that 6th grade teacher that I was talking about, and then another one in high school. His name was Steve. We call the teachers by their first names. He did the same thing. His brother was some kind of broker for stocks, I think, and he was all about retirement. Both of them were. And Steve had this chart where he's like, you start saving at 25, you can be a multimillionaire just in your IRA by the time that you retire.
Right.
And then my computer teacher, we went through Financial Peace University. They paid for the program. We did Dave Ramsey's program in my computer class. So I had some education about it, but I was a dumb high schooler who didn't take anything seriously.
Right.
I had much bigger problems than that right now.
Right.
So, well, allegedly.
Right.
So I tuned a lot of it out until it was too late.
Right.
But also...
until you actually needed it.
Right. But I also got my head out of my ass a lot earlier than a lot of people do.
Right.
It is because of you. I'm thankful for that, for sure. And, like, even though you nag me fucking constantly about these things...
fix it faster. I don't know what to tell you.
At least you set the expectation when we got together.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise. Like, out of anything that you could nag me about, at least you didn't surprise me with this one. So...
I think the only reason that I was willing to put my shit down a little bit with you to, like, see this relationship through was because I saw that you were willing to do something about it.
Of course. I wasn't comfortable in the position
I've been with people before, like, being codependent, right? You usually attract people that have things to work on.
Yep.
That they don't necessarily want to fix.
Correct.
Right? Like, you usually attract people that are like, they got some fucking shit going on and they're not very self-aware that what's causing it could be fixed pretty easily by just, like, throwing some positive energy that way and some movement and some action. And so I have been in many relationships. Ask my brother. I think he's just been, like, keeping a tally in the background.
He's like, shit.
Yeah.
All right, shit.
No,
Ooh, big circle.
the other day he literally was like, I was talking about exes and he's like, yeah, and Tom's a check mark. He's like, a check mark, like, all, like, you just keep, like, scribbling over it, like, yes.
Good.
But anyway, I've been in a lot of relationships with people that were not willing to change their perspective at all. They weren't willing to look at it and see that it was a fucking problem. They weren't willing to acknowledge it. Like, there were a lot of people that I've been with where I wanted them to change and they just wouldn't, you know?
Yeah.
And so to me, seeing your willingness to change, not only, like, financially, but communication style, like, you've been willing to grow and change basically everything, which is fucking sick because that's what I want out of a partner, you know, with the expectations that I have of a financial situation. I didn't expect to just walk into that and be like, meeting somebody at my same level of like understanding of money, you know.
Yeah, but you also didn't expect to walk through the door and get hit with a fucking car bomb.
No, literally.
Which, I mean, I could have had a worse score. I'm surprised it was only 520.
Like, I would say, and we can cut this out if we don't want to play with numbers, but I would say that we've easily paid off like over $60,000 of debt in the 4 years that we've been together.
Cars included, yeah.
Yeah.
We have. And like 80 to 90% of that was me and my mistakes.
Yes. Yeah. It was.
I think the only 10% is the credit card debt that we accrued together and your car.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of my mistakes, but the way that I try and operate, I hate having weak points, and I know that they're there.
Right.
But I don't
so
like that they're there. So I want to try and have as few as I can.
Right.
And sure, you fix one and another one pops up somewhere else. I don't care. It's just a constant battle. But I learn and I grow. And one of the biggest ones that I had was my finances and my taxes and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I must be pretty fucking spectacular if you saw past that.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. You were the first person that I've been with that was like willing to work on communicating like open and honestly about anything.
Yeah. Well, part of it is I saw your value too.
Right.
I saw someone that I was actually willing to work with.
Right.
And like when we got together, we were like, fuck everyone. We're not getting in a relationship.
Yeah.
And then you blew a tire and you're like, perhaps I should reconsider. Because you saw this.
Yeah. I saw that ass and those thighs walking up and doing porches. Goddamn, how could I not?
Was it that outstanding?
Oh, yeah.
Was it that noticeable?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Those basketball shorts are not very forgiving, and I so appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad. But I've trained so many people. I wonder how many people thought the same as you.
I don't know.
Thought I had a juicy dumpy.
Never say that again. Ew.
Pardon my French.
Ew. Sick.
All right, back to the topic.
Yeah.
But I saw value in you because, like, I'm sure you have figured out now, being with me as long as you have, when I have my mind made up on something, I'm not going to fucking change it.
Yeah.
Like, when I for sure am like, nope, I will not be taking criticism at this time, you can fuck right off with your opinion.
Yeah.
Where was I going with that? Oh, right. So when I had my mind made up of I'm not going to get in a relationship for a while, I wasn't fresh off of a breakup when we first met, but like it was like 6 months out, something like that. And I'm just like, I'm fine being single again. I'm good. Not financially, but
yeah.
Everything else, I'm like, I'm good. I get to do what I want. No one's breathing down my neck to fucking just go to bed with me, spend time with me. I don't fucking care. I'm going to play Modern Warfare all night until I have to go to work.
Yep.
But when we first started hanging out and you wanted a DTR and I was like, I need a couple days to think about it. Cause like I had my mind made up, but I saw value in you and I'm like, do I really want to let this fine piece of ass go?
That was the exact thought that happened.
It wasn't the exact one, but it was one of them. It wasn't the first one. Cause like, it's not a secret. I am not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And I was like, I was actually telling this to my coworker yesterday. I'm like, I wanted someone smarter than me, but not too smart, so I didn't feel retarded. Because I was like, where's the balance? And I think you hit the balance there because you're a lot smarter than me in some ways. And then I'm like, in other ways, we're at least on even playing field.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't say that you're dumber than me in any way because
Yeah.
I'm pretty fucking stupid. Or no, I'm an idiot. I might be an idiot, but I'm not stupid. And like, I didn't want to let that opportunity slip by because like one of the first conversations we had was about money. And I was like, oh, okay. So this is like, I don't think I've ever gotten in a relationship where someone talked about money that quickly. And I was like, that's usually like a 4 or 5 months in type of thing. That's after you started to figure out the rest of the bullshit. So when you would ask me to DTR, one of the things I had considered was that we had already talked about finances. And I was like, I am shit at finances. And it was nice that you kind of led the way with that, because I was like, it'd be nice to learn how to manage my money. I don't like being where I am, but I even now still have poor impulse control.
Right.
But back then it was a lot worse. And so I was like, I'm not comfortable with my financial situation. So I factored in, you might be able to help me, or like point me in the right direction. I wouldn't say help me, because I'm not the type to have you do the work. There's still a lot of work. Oh, shut up. Do you have any idea how many favors I do for you?
I'm talking financially, but anyway.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
I carry a lot of the financial weight. All you have to do is not fucking swipe the card. All you have to do is not fucking swipe it.
Yeah.
I'm in charge of where it goes, how much goes where, like.
So one of the things I considered was like, you had bought an RV and fucked off around the country a little bit, and you had to have the money to do it, and then you ran out of money, which is why you got the newspaper route.
Yeah.
So I was like, damn, 3 to 4 years on the road before you run out of money, and my shit would have been gone in 3 months. I would have eaten Ruth's Chris every night and parked in their parking lot. So that was a big green flag for me. But at the same time, in those days of deliberation, I realized it would come with a cost. And the cost was, don't be a dipshit with your money anymore.
Yeah, you got a lot of work to do.
Sure. But I was okay with that. Because I'm like,
It's about damn time someone holds me, like...
Sure.
You do better with somebody holding you accountable to something.
100%.
Yeah, I do too.
100%.
Yeah.
Because, like, again, I have poor impulse control. It's just a fact of what I have to deal with. And unfortunately, that's one of my weak points that I'm working on. It's not unfortunate that I'm working on it. But
right.
So after we DTR'd, the main thing that the questions that I asked you, I don't remember exactly what they were after so many years. I remember a couple, but I was more worried about your reaction than I was what the questions were. I was playing a little game with you, and I don't think I've ever told you, have I? That I was playing a game with you?
Mm-mm.
The game wasn't string you along and manipulate you, but the game was, like, I wanted the answers to my questions, and I had to gauge your reaction to them. And they weren't exactly just like, what's your favorite color? No. They're like, one of the questions that I do remember asking you is, how do you communicate, or how do you fight? Because, like, what's that face for?
There's no face.
Oh. Well, I ask you, how do you fight? And you're like, if it gets too heated, I usually shut down. And you didn't even blink at that fucking question. And I was like, okay, so 2 things. First, you had that loaded up, which means you have to know yourself a little bit. And that's what I want. I want someone who knows themselves and won't rely on me. Yeah. Right. Secondly, you're willing to acknowledge how you fight. Like, most people are like, the fuck are you talking about? Oh, okay, so you get mad. Got it.
Got me.
Roger that. But you didn't blink. You answered it honestly. And the honesty was another big factor. Because, like, I can deal with everything else, but I can't deal with someone not lying to me. I can't. And that's coming from a person who's told a lot of lies in their life. I have lied a shitload, but I don't anymore. Because it's, when your parents, maybe you don't because you were a goody two-shoes, but
I was.
My parents always told me, oh, lying will always get you in more trouble if we find out the truth. I'm like, hey, bullshit, you're never going to find out the truth.
I have to tell you the truth.
You can't handle the truth. Anyways, I have figured out, again, unless she listens to this, she's never going to hear it out of my mouth, but my mom was right. You know what? I guess my dad said it too. Yeah, they were both right. Like, it is a lot easier to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And I've built upon that. And part of that's because of you, because you're also an honest person.
I have to be. I don't have a choice.
You have a choice.
No, I'm such an anxious person. Like, holding something in,
dude, you are
eats me alive.
Liar. You are a bad
liar. It eats me alive. I can't. Yeah. Like, I have to be honest.
Yep.
I think it's the fucking Mormonism. It's the leftover
be.
Mormonism.
Which, by the way, you have to make an episode of that.
I know. It's in the next season.
Okay.
I have some cool shit coming for you guys.
All right.
I'm really excited about the next season. It's going to be mainly full of solo episodes, I think.
So, I've talked enough about me. What were your thoughts around when we got together? Like, what was going through your head when I told you it was 520? Besides, get your shit together.
It was a fucking financial disaster is what I thought. I was like, how on fucking earth did you think it was okay to not pay the IRS? How, like, seeing that you used credit cards all the wrong way, that you had financed furniture, like...
Oh, why you gotta bring that up?
No,
why you gotta bring
because
that
I
up?
Fucking have to. You had
I
every single bad debt that you can possibly manage to get approved for.
I deserve that.
A fucking repossessed car at like your car had an 18% interest rate. Was it 11?
No, it was not.
The CRV?
The CRV was at 11. That's what I could get financed
Still,
at. But
when I heard 11, I didn't even know about the fit. I was like, that's absurd. That's absurd. And then there was the repossession. And then there was like just so many different things where I was like...
You want to know the worst part about that? Mm-hmm. The furniture was in collections.
Yeah, how the fuck?
Like, it's bad enough that I finance furniture, and it's even worse that I let that shit go to collection. It was $40 a month. Yeah. I couldn't even do that.
Yeah, it was like you borrowing from your grandma consistently.
Yep.
When I saw your credit card statement for the first time, I like almost had a heart attack. Like, that was insane to me. Like overall, the thought was like, this boy needs help.
I did.
Like, but the cool thing, this is the thing. I have gathered many tools along the way in my journey, both in therapy. I'd say so.
Jesus, dearie.
You said it. Anyway, I've collected a lot of tools along the way. Financial knowledge, therapeutic knowledge, like there's a lot of shit. And for me, the biggest gift of having those tools is lending them to other people. And so to me, although your financial situation was frightening, you loose fucking cannon with a credit card, like frightening. The way that you talked about it was like, yeah, it's not who I want to be, but it is who I have been. Like, it's something that I want to work on. And so to me, I was like, I have the tools to fix your shit if you're willing to use them. But I wasn't going to sit around and just sit on those tools while you go and fuck off with your finances. Like, I had done that already.
Right.
I wasn't interested in that.
That's
like,
part
I knew
of the reason that you didn't want a relationship.
Yeah, I knew exactly what I wanted. And like, it's in my vows, but I had a list.
You did. You brought up that list.
I had a list of who my person was going to be, because the relationship I was in before I was with you wasn't bad. Like, it was not a bad relationship, which really made me get like super strict about that list, because I was like, okay, I've had the shitter relationships, like just absolute dog shit. And I've had one that was just like, just not right, you know? So it was like, I needed to get real with myself about what would marriage material look like to me. Like, what would the traits be for somebody that would actually fulfill me in a relationship?
A little sidetrack. I was also telling my coworker about how our journey was similar. Our first serious relationship, we got treated very poorly, and then we became codependent. And then the next one, we weren't the best.
Right.
Like, you probably treated yours a little bit better than I
Way
treated
better.
mine. I was an asshole.
Yeah.
I apologized to that chick after we broke up because I was a dick. But It's weird that we've walked such a similar but different lifestyle, and we ended up here.
Right. And I think that was, like, I considered a lot. And I mean, one of the big things that helped me look past a lot of your red flags was your green flags. And one of them was when we first got together, or like before we even got together. We were just like hanging out, like playing the line between like friends, but like
More than friends.
like we both knew that there was like some sexual tension that was going on.
Yep.
And so you asked me to sleep over. And I'm sure I've talked about this on the podcast before. I'm telling it again because it's important. I talked to my friend Jen and I was like, this dude that I've been seeing that I really like asked me to sleep over at his house, and I'm really nervous because I don't want it to be sexual. Like,
Right.
I really don't want to, because I have done that before where I didn't want it to be.
Do you remember why I asked you to sleep over?
No.
It was the AC.
Oh, yeah.
You kept complaining about how hot it was. And I'm like, I got AC, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Sorry to interrupt. Go
it's
ahead.
okay. I've done the thing sleeping over at a guy's house before, and it would always be sexual. Like, it would always get to that point at some point, and it would always make me uncomfortable because like there was no question of consent. Like, I literally would go in with the hope that it wouldn't get to that point, and that's all I had to work with. And so as I had been working on myself, like now I'm an adult with a lot of therapy under my belt, and I'm like, okay, I have a choice in this. And so I remember we were walking by the bridge, my favorite bridge. We weren't by the bridge, actually. We were by the little circle art thing. And I was like, hey, I got to bring something up with you about the sleepover. I don't remember how I worded it, but I was like, we're just going to be sleeping, right? Like, my intention is to just sleep. And you were like, yeah, that's...
What else did you think it would be, you little pervert?
Yeah, yeah. Like, something along those lines, which was a green flag to hear the words. Like, to have you not just be like, well, I was kind of hoping that it was, you know, or like doing the little like, well, we'll see, which like leaves it still a little bit unsafe for me. And I've had that experience, you know, so it was like, that was a green flag. And then actually going over and like not even being made aware of the soldier standing at attention.
I had to work very hard for that.
Like, to me, like knowing that you had like thoughts and urges, and yet you were an adult who respected the woman that was in the bed with him and her wishes enough to keep it to your fucking self and keep it being your problem and not mine. Like, that was a big deal for me. Because I was like, damn, okay, so he, like, actually has respect. That was the first time that had ever happened to me. Where I could just, like, feel safe just cuddling, and that was it.
I don't even think we kissed until our third nap date.
Yeah, no.
And you made the first move.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it, especially after the conversations that we had. I already don't make first moves, but after that conversation, I was like, all right, well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we cuddled before you asked me to sleep over. It was like one of those where you were in your chair, I was in your bed, and I was like, it's got to be pretty uncomfortable over there. You want to come and sit in the bed? And so you like, you like tucked as small as you could to like give me as much space as possible to like not feel intimidated.
Yep.
And you just like sat all the way over there, and then I was like, you maybe want to like cuddle. And you're like, yeah, I think I could do that.
Yep.
And then we just cuddled. And, like, that's all that happened for, like you said, like
3 times.
like 3
It
times.
was the third one. You think I would forget that?
Yeah.
Third time.
Yeah. So that gave me the reassurance that I needed. Between that and our, like, hours long conversations that would cover many different topics, deep, shallow, like whatever the fuck. The house that we just passed, like, it doesn't matter. Like, we'd talk about anything. Like, those were bigger green flags than the red flag, because I actually had the tools to be able to take the red flag down, and you had the motivation or, like, the willingness to use the tools. So, like, to me, that's all I ever really wanted in a partner, is somebody that's willing to grow and, like, use tools along with me to grow, So, I don't know. I will say that if it did not go that way, like, if you were not willing to, like, if you did not have the reaction that you did when the undercover spending was happening, like, if you didn't have the, like, I fucked up really fucking bad and I know that reaction, if you were trying to, like, belittle it or make it seem like it wasn't as big of a deal as it was, like, that probably would have been the end of our relationship right there.
Yeah,
But you did take it very seriously, and, like, you haven't done that since.
I meant it.
And any time that I've felt like something like that was going on, we've been able to talk about it and clear it up.
It's the benefit of being honest. Because, like, the other thing is, in that situation, I don't feel like I was lying to you, but I was not telling you the whole truth.
Yeah.
And we didn't have joint finances at that time.
Right. But I was helping you move your finances.
Yep.
Like, at that point, I was helping you stay on top of it and budget and, like, get that shit right. So it was, like, a breach of trust.
Yeah.
For me. Because I was helping you get out of debt and you were helping you stay in debt.
I don't know if I've ever asked you, have I earned that back yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not at a place where it didn't happen.
Sure.
It's still a concern in my head. Like, it's hard to not be worried about that, but I would say that you have enough action, like, backing it up to where it's not, like, the first thing that I think of.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Did you ever have a conversation with Jen after the fact?
Oh, yeah. Of course. You think I was going to leave her hanging? She was, like, my wingman through this. She really was. Like, I was very nervous about starting a relationship because I'd just gotten out of one and just gotten to a place where I was really good with myself. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not interested in it. I've been, like, relationship hopping, and I didn't want to, like, keep doing that, But I didn't. Again, like, it was the same thing as you, where I was just like, okay, I might not be ready, but, like, I'm not going to let this go.
Yeah, it's an opportunity that we should at least explore.
Yeah. And we were both okay, like, helping each other be ready. That makes sense. Waiting and, like, giving it time.
How many days was it? How many days are in April? 30? Yeah. So 41 days. 41 days from the point when you first blew that tire to when we made it official.
Yeah.
It was 41 days.
I kept track of everything, too, on the calendar.
You did.
Yeah. It was very intentional. I put that shit in my vows because it was.
Yeah.
Like, both of us were very intentional about it. It wasn't lackadaisical at all. Like,
yep. You were a lot more intentional about it than me.
Yeah.
But I was still pretty intentional because the other thing, too, is, like, I had recognized that I had baggage. And I think even pretty early on in our relationship, I had admitted that I was an asshole to my last my last relationship. And you still saw past that.
I remember asking the question, like, what would your ex say about you? And you actually texted her. Like, you texted her to ask.
I did. I was like,
you're like, can I get a
hold
review?
on, let's see. Let's see. And honestly,
I think I texted my ex too, one of them.
You did.
The other one I just assumed because I would not be reaching out to that fuck.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Same.
We had very similar relationships.
Yep.
It's weird.
What blows me away is that the message that I got back from her was not as bad as I was expecting.
Yeah. You're like, I was a fucking ass. And she's like, it was actually pretty good. You were a pretty good partner.
Yeah. She was like, you were pretty good. We had our moments, but.
Yeah. Then again, we don't know what kind of dysfunction she's used to.
It
might have been the better
what type of dysfunction she's used to, so I can kind of see her response. But like, I still apologized because it wasn't, regardless of how that went. Like, I was a fucking asshole. Yeah, there's no excuse for that, and she didn't deserve that. Yeah. No matter how you look at it, no one deserves to be treated like that. I wasn't the worst that I could have been to her, right? But and I never beat her. That's a hard rule for me, is I don't hit women. Right. But I definitely verbally abused her quite a bit, especially if I got woken up and I was in a mood, and no one deserves to be treated like that. I said some really hurtful shit. Yeah. But I also admitted that pretty early in our relationship, and because I wanted you to, the way I was thinking about it is, if we're going to give this a try, then I need to be 100% honest with who I used to be. Right. Because even though I was still wrapped up in bad financial decisions and a whole lot of other stuff, I still am not the same person I used to be. And I've recognized that I didn't want to be that guy. Yeah. I think it's nice that the answer to your question was honest. Because a lot of the times it would be like just talking shit about the other person. Uh-huh. You know, my ex did this and that and that and that, which we shared those, but it wasn't like solely blaming it on the other person. Like, we both saw our faults in our past relationships and what we needed to grow on. Yeah. So I don't know how this like turned into a relationship thing, but I guess it has to be, because relationships do define finances. If you guys do not agree on how finances work, even on like job security. Yep. Like, to me, to be able to be financially stable, I had to stick it out at jobs that I didn't love for a while. Like, same, dog. I stayed at every job that I've been there for like a year and a half or more, except for one job, and that one was because I moved in the RV. I was only there for 3 months. But it was like a transition. I didn't know that I was getting that job to quit it, and I felt really bad about it. But there's some people that, you know, jobs are like fucking hookups, you know, dude, like you use it until it's not good for you anymore, and then you dip. I've been fired twice, and those still are burned into my brain. Right. Because I take my work ethic very seriously. Right. And there are reasons. There's one of the firings that I felt was not fair at all. It was fair, but not fair. Like, the firing itself was fair. However, how he painted me afterwards was completely unfair. Because, number one, it was actually my ex's dad that had the connection there. It was an HVAC company, and I started there. The problem was I was still working 60 to 70 hours a week as a newspaper manager and trying to do HVAC. So I would work from about 11 p.m. and I told my bosses I have a hard deadline of 6 a.m. So I'd work from 11 to 6 a.m. and I would have to be at the shop by 6:30, which wasn't always possible. One of the reasons I got fired was because I wasn't always on time at 6:30. There were a couple of times where I had to go and drive to the job site itself instead of drive to the place and then get in the truck there. So I was working 60 to 70 hours a week doing that, and then I was working an additional 20 to 30 hours a week doing HVAC, and I was getting burnt out fast. Right. That is not easy work, and on top of already working an entire shift beforehand all night long, then having to work and barely sleep, So then, and again, the firing itself was justified because I was not an asset to that company. I was let go properly. The team itself, the guy that ended up doing the firing, he was a team leader. Like, he cried when he had to fire me. I'm like, bro, you're going to make me cry. Don't take it personal, man. I knew this is coming. I was like, I think it's kind of shitty that he sent us 60 miles away from the shop just for you to old yeller me all the way out here. But hey, it is what it is, man. I was like, I appreciate the emotion. I know that you're doing this because you're not doing this of your own will.
Right.
So, because he even said, he's like, you have one of the best attitudes I've ever seen in my life.
Right. He's like, it's just not working.
It's not working. And then I took it on the chin, and he's like, dude, how? He's like, you're taking it so positive. You're making this worse. And I'm like,
why are you being a good guy?
Well, I'm
Yell
like,
at
it's
me.
not a secret, dude. It's fine. Yeah. Like, and besides which, I make more money at my other job anyway. At least now I can go to sleep on time.
Right.
But afterwards, the guy had said like awful shit about my work ethic. And it did not help that he was a spitting image of Anthony.
Ew.
A spitting image. So he walks around the corner, and I'm like, you son of a bitch, it's on. And then he sticks his hand out, hi, I'm Lincoln. And I'm like, oh, fuck, dude. You have not. I shook his hand, and I was like staring daggers at him. And I hope he didn't, like, that wasn't like the first interaction. But, like, it was about to be on because I thought it was him. I'm like, you motherfucker. Because I didn't know that was the boss. I thought that was like another employee. He comes around the corner. I'm like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's one thing I've always taken pretty serious is my work ethic.
Yeah.
And I applied that to our relationship because I saw the value in you and having you. And I saw you as, I mean, not just as an asset, but that's kind of how I viewed my relationships is there has to be a give and a take.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm going to give, what am I getting?
Right. Yeah. I'm not here to be used.
Right.
I'm not here to be taken advantage of. I'm here to grow with another person.
You can do all that as much as you want.
Stop it.
Oh
my God.
Anyways.
You got me blushing.
Good. We got way off topic.
Yeah.
But rightfully so. Rightfully so because finances are the number one cause of divorce in America.
And work ethic is directly connected to finances.
It is. And I take my job seriously.
Yeah, me too.
It was a little difficult when we first moved here to quit Costco so quickly the way that I did. Like, I'm glad it happened the way it did because I kept some of those relationships. Like, even I went in there like a week ago and someone was like, oh, is this your day off? And I was like, bro, I quit 2 months ago. What are you talking about? You are so out of the loop. But I'm still on good terms with the people there. And it's not often that you quit a job that you can just go in there and do the same. But I still felt bad. And even my boss at the time, there were two. There was the one that was like directly over that department. She had asked me, he's like, so what's the real reason? And I'm like, I will be honest with you. And the real reason is that this job makes me feel like I'm living to work and not the other way around. And she's like, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, between the inconsistent scheduling and the inconsistent schedule, like the scheduling and the schedule, it's really hard to plan how to work or how to live outside of work. Yeah.
It's not a job to have when you're
right.
married.
I'm like, it's hurting my marriage a little bit. And fortunately, I even told her this. I'm like, fortunately, I married a woman who understands.
Yeah.
But I can't do this for much longer.
Yeah.
And she's like, so it doesn't have to do with the work or anything. I'm like, honestly, the work itself is easy. It's the way that it's being managed that makes it tough.
Right.
And she took it on the chin, and I didn't fault her either because I knew her story.
Right.
And then the other manager, he's the one that actually gave me he sat down with me to do my 30-day review. There was not a single negative thing in there from the other manager.
Right.
Not one. And I'm like, this is the best review I've ever gotten in my life. And I worked my ass off for this review. And it
Right.
felt a little bad that I had to be quitting 2 days later.
Right.
But I'm like, if I don't do this and take the opportunity that I've been given, I will be in a lot worse shape. And this time I have to do this for me. It ain't
Right.
personal. It's for my own growth.
Right.
And doing that kind of built my confidence up a little bit, because I was like, I had never quit a job in that fashion before, where I was like, hey, it ain't personal. I've only been here for 30 days, but this is a sick opportunity and I can't pass it up.
Right.
And I am so glad I did. Man, I love this job.
Yeah, me
It's
too.
great.
I'm glad that you did too, because it was hard to have like half a husband or less.
Yeah. And like, that's another thing too. I was making good money over there.
Yeah.
It's a great company to work for. I will stand by that. However, I could not let that get in the way of the other half of a relation. I would say finances are about half.
Yeah.
At least in our relationship. It might not be that way for everyone, but
Right.
like, finances are about half of our relationship,
Yeah.
and the other half was starting to suffer, and I
Yeah.
couldn't let that happen. So I even told you one day, I was like, dude, if I have to work another day in that chicken room, I'm going to kill myself. And you were like, as I was leaving for work, you're like, just come home employed. And then right after that, you're like, if you don't, I'll understand. And
Yeah.
that, I was like, see, that's how I know I can take this. Because, like, I'm not doing this because I don't want to. I'm doing this to better my family.
Right.
And I went to work anyway. Like, just hearing the phrase, if you don't, I understand, gave me a little bit more motivation to go to work.
Yeah. I felt that at Starbucks. And that's why I had so much leniency, because I was like, I know what it looks like to be burnt the fuck out of a job, and like how much it takes out of you to go in and like still try and live up to the expectation that you entered the job with.
Yeah.
Like it's hard. So I got it. I understood.
What also helped with that job is that when I clocked out, I didn't have to think about it.
Right.
But I did, because it was taking a lot out of me.
Yep.
And also, like, I was always checking the schedule because it would change so frequently, even next day. And it was sucking up so much of my time at home that I couldn't be present at home. Granted, even now, I'm not really present at work. I even, like, in my review with my boss the other day, he's like, do you have any more thoughts? And I'm like, yeah, but none of them are work related. He was like, that's what I love about you, Tom. There's not a dull moment with you. And like at work, I definitely have a work mindset. But I think it was my mom who told me. I don't think it was, because it doesn't sound like something she'd say. But someone told me I have an unquiet mind. And that really, I do. Even like in Costco, I would just be daydreaming all the time and cussing at the chickens.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I have an unquiet mind. So it's nice to have a job where not only can I apply the skills that I've learned throughout my life, but also once I punch that clock, like I clock in, work time. I clock out, home time.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a rigid boundary, and it helps me. I even told my bosses when I got hired, like, I don't want to have to take work home with me. It's a big difference if I choose to take work home with me, because then I get the choice into it, and it's not as heavy. But if I have to bring that shit home every day, I'm going to hate my job, and eventually I'm not going to like it anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was a dumbass statement. See, right there, not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Eventually I'm going to hate coming into work, and then I won't enjoy my life anymore.
Right.
And it'll feel like living to work.
Yeah. Yep, I get it. I think it's so important to, I guess, to try and wrap this up. In a relationship, I think it's important to understand, like, as you're getting into a relationship, first of all, have your boundaries before
Agreed.
that. What do you expect out of a person? Like you said, our relationship is a large amount financial at this point, because I have fucking goals. I have big dreams and I have big goals, and we have to be sticklers right now to make that happen. Yep. If we get into that routine of operating with money in the fashion that I'm trying to get us to, like, we will not be hurting.
No.
Financial is not going to be our number one stress of our relationship.
Dave
It will
Ramsey
be
says-
important, but it will not be our stress. It will not be the thing that breaks us up.
Right.
We will not be added to that statistic because of how on top of finances we have been from the beginning of our relationship.
Yep.
And that's why it's so important.
It is. And as Dave Ramsey says, you live and give like no one else so that later you can live and give like no one else.
Exactly. Yes. And that's
or you
why
live like no one else so that you can live and give like no one else.
Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to do through that.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm glad that we can match up on that. If you don't come into it knowing what you want out of a financial position and having those conversations and checking with your partner about how do they work? Do they think that it's okay to like quit their job and not have a job for a while?
Yeah.
You know, like those were things that I wish I would have asked before I was in my first 3-year long relationship, because for 4 to 6 months of it, I was the only person working. And that was unacceptable to me because I thought that I was getting into a relationship with somebody that was going to sacrifice for our family, whatever that looked like. Going out and getting the job and making the money and not letting us suffer in that way. And to see him be, for lack of a better term, like lazy and just wasting away his days, not even taking care of the house in his time off, like that was very destructive to me and my sense of him. And I wish I would have known that going into it instead of having to learn the hard way by carrying the team for that long. Like it was really hard. And so because of that, I came into our relationship with a strict boundary of like, if you're not in a good financial spot, you're going to use these tools and you're going to get there, and we're going to get there together so that we can have a life that is not dependent on the struggles of fucking money.
Yeah.
I don't want money to be ruling our lives. It feels like it right now, but I want to eventually have money be working for us, not us working for money.
Yep.
And so coming to the table with a strong idea of what both of your beliefs are about work ethic, who's going to be in charge of making the money? You know, is it both of us? Are we jointly going to be doing that? Like, where is our long-term goal going and how can we get there? You know, what are your beliefs about money? Are you willing to change your beliefs about money if they need to be changed? If they need to be updated so that we can be successful going forward? Otherwise, you are going to be locked into a relationship where you are financially crippled. Like, your entire relationship, you know, it will be the most important thing, and eventually it probably will be the thing that breaks you up.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good understanding of how both of you operate with finances in the entire scope of it. So I'm glad that we did our due diligence from our relationships prior, and that you were open and willing to have a financial wellness check and a complete like reconstruction of the way that you operate with money.
Yep.
And I hope that if/when we decide to have children, we can pass along them instead of having an anxious or an abstinent ruling about money, is that like either money works for you or you work for money.
Yeah.
Is what I would like to teach. And sometimes you have to work for money to get money to work for you, and teach them how that can actually happen. That's what I would like to pass down, because I think that that's a pretty important thing to learn about money, is that your belief about it controls the way that you operate with it. And so I think that we can do it. I think we can get to a financial spot where we can afford to have a family, and we can afford to teach our family how to gain enough wealth to live the life that they want to.
Yeah.
You only get so many
and
years.
more importantly, I want to take steps to set them up. Like, I don't want my kids to grow up the same way that I did, and I want to improve on that. And so far, if we were to have children right now, that would already be the truth. But I have a higher expectation for myself than just this, which I would feel is the bare minimum.
Right.
But I'm just tired of hearing so many people in my family who started behind the 8 ball and stayed there.
Right.
And like, or they're beyond it now, but they're so late in life that like it's their youth is gone. They can't enjoy it as well.
Right.
Or as decent, as well. That's the right word. Yeah. So like I don't want my kids to have to worry, because there were a few times when I was a child where I would worry about what I was causing on my parents financially. Of course, there were a few times where I was reminded unfairly what that was, but it was still there, and it built a narrative in my mind to where now I have to like have all these rules, and that's why I say it might not have been my parents' intention to have these restrictive rules around food or finances or anything like that, but it came across that way. And so if I can avoid passing that to my kids, I would be happy. I'd be like, look, I've been in a place where I was terrible with money, and I've been there. You haven't been there. I have been there, and together we can form a narrative that's like, you can go either direction. It's not unrecoverable, but you need to be very smart about your money.
Right. If you want your money to work for you, you gotta work for your money a little bit.
Yeah.
You gotta work your money a little bit.
Straight up, I've thought about taking my kid when they're like 10 or 11 to a church parking lot. Just be like, shovel. It builds character.
It builds character.
Because it will.
Yeah, work ethic.
Yeah, it builds a work ethic. This is what I did, and this is what you're going to do to learn.
Yeah.
And same thing. Like, I will tell them, if they offer money, you will always say, you can pay me what you think is fair.
Right.
And sometimes you might do free work.
Yep.
And you will never show them that you're upset about that. You will say, thank you for the opportunity, and move on. You just never go back there, and you can cuss and yell your way down the street. Just you don't let the enemy see you sweat.
Yeah.
Not like that.
Yeah.
But
I think we're doing a pretty good job of setting up a good foundation to build a family and a life off of.
I think we are.
It wasn't easy to get here, but I think
I don't think we're ready yet.
No.
Yeah. I'm glad we're on the same page.
I want to have at least like a year's savings fund and a house.
Yeah, that was my
ideally.
Prerequisite. My only prerequisite at the time was that I want to own a house. Because, like, there's nothing wrong with bouncing around like I did, but I just don't want to. If we can avoid it, I don't want to.
I know that I can only handle one big stress at a time.
Yeah.
That's not true.
You know what?
I know that I cannot handle a lot of big stresses at a time, and children are automatically a big stress. So I can't have like financial insecurity and children at the same time.
I'm sure I've showed you this channel, but have you ever heard of a channel called Outdoor Boys?
Are they the ones that just like build shit outside?
No, that's different. That's a different one. No, this dude, he's kind of a nerdy looking fella. And he brings his son out into the wilderness sometimes, so he'll make videos about survival and wilderness, mostly cold stuff. I think he lives in Alaska. Not entirely sure, but he has this one phrase that he says he doesn't mind being cold, he doesn't mind being hungry, and he doesn't mind being tired, but he has a personal rule that he will only do one of those things at a time.
Yeah.
So tonight he's going to eat like a king.
Yep.
And he had this like nice meal for himself, and he was warm. He was going to bed, so he'd be tired, but it was a little cold. So anyways, I like that philosophy of like, shit's going to happen, but I have a personal rule that I will only do one bad thing at a time.
Right.
So he prepares himself to deal with the other things, but he's only going to deal with them one at a time.
Yeah. And we have the choice. Like, neither of us have had kids yet. So we actually still have the choice to be proactive about it. I do not. One of the things that I did grow up with is reactive parents. My dad less so, because he's just a really laid back dude. Like, when he's stressed, you can see it like in his face, but he doesn't project it.
Yeah.
You know? But my mom was very reactive. And so it was like we were always kind of like on eggshells, not knowing what the next reaction was going to be. I have a tendency to be that. Like, that's my natural state of being. That's how I was raised.
I think that's
I'm like,
everyone's natural state of being. That's why it's common.
Right. We're naturally reactive. I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't like seeing kids be parented out of reaction, you know. I don't like what finances look like when we have to be reactive about it. Like, I really do prefer to be a proactive person, so I'm doing the proactive shit now.
I think there's a psychological part to the emergency fund. I don't remember. It was a member at my work who was saying that she doesn't believe $1,000 is enough anymore to save aggressively. And I agreed with her, and I was talking with her, and I said, you know what? What?
It smells like someone ripped their whole ass.
Well, you're right.
It's like cabbage.
Shasta. You're right next to Shasta.
Ew.
So, little bonky toots.
Smells like someone died.
So anyways, well, it's either Shasta's breath or Shasta's ass. So there is seldom a difference between the two. So I was talking with the member, and she said, I don't think $1,000 is enough anymore.
It's not.
And I said, well, I do agree. $1,000 turns a lot of big inconveniences into smaller inconveniences, and that can make the biggest psychological difference.
It turns $1,500 into $5.
It turns $1,500 into $5, and a lot of people can afford $5 a lot better than they can afford $15.
Yep. And
I think that there's a psychological change with saving $1,000 as quick as possible, because there's multiple layers to that $1,000. That $1,000 means that if you have an emergency, it's now a little bit less of an emergency.
Yeah.
It's peace of mind. It's a little bit of a safety net. It's like, okay, now I have a little bit of money here. This is money that I will not touch unless I have to. Like when I dropped my phone in the parking lot and broke it, and I called you and I was like, hey, I'm gonna have to buy another phone. And you're like, God damn it, we don't have the money. What is going on? You started freaking out. And I was like, relax, we have our emergency fund. And you're like, but we just saved that. I'm like, yeah, I know, but that's what it's for. It's for emergencies. And right now my phone is fucked.
And we didn't even have to dip into it because we've been on top of our finances.
We've been on top of our finances. It worked out, and we didn't have to dip into it. But when I dropped my phone and I saw it broken, like my screen has been on the way out the door for over a year.
Yeah.
And I've been putting up with it because I'm like, we can't afford to replace this. And to be honest with you, other than scrolling memes, making phone calls, Snapchat, and texting, I don't really use the remainder of those functions.
Right.
So like, and Spotify. But like, as a whole, I don't really need the best and brightest phone. I don't take pictures. I don't record videos. I just don't. And so even when I dropped my phone and I started looking for a replacement, I'm
Ashley's
like,
here.
Oh, well, tell her to sit tight. So even when I dropped my phone, I was like, first of all, it sucks that I have to spend this money, but we have the money. It sucks that, right. I was actually really excited because like when I dropped it, I was like, damn, wait, I get a new phone. Because like I've had this phone for 7 years, this generation of phone for 7 years. So I was like, anything from here is an upgrade. I don't need the best and brightest. And I was like, I know that we can't afford a whole lot of money, so anything that I buy from here is an upgrade. And I upgraded from a 7-year-old device to a 4-year-old device. And I'm happy with it. Right. I enjoy it. But like, if we weren't on top of our finances, that would have ruined my day. Yeah. And it did not ruin my day because psychologically, I'm like, oh, we have a safety net for exactly this. It won't affect our budget. We do have to affect our budget in the coming weeks to get that back as soon as we possibly can. But right now, in this moment, I don't have to go into debt over this mistake.
Right.
Over my Butterfingers.
Which is nice.
And it was really nice. And I think that psychological
That's worth putting off all the instant gratification, isn't it?
It is. It is. And a lot of people haven't realized that yet. Now the gratification is
not having to fucking take a knife wound to just like...
It's pretty spectacular of
Yeah.
a feeling. And I think psychologically, when folks make that change and they have that first little peace of mind, for a lot of people for the first time are experiencing that breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And it is enlightening, to say the least. But talk about your finances
Yes.
before you get, like, this is before, I mean, I'm not saying marry your finances right away, but
Talk about your finances. Talk about your work ethic.
Talk about what your family, or how your family treated finances.
Yep.
What you grew up with, knowing about money, credit, what
Yeah.
you know about credit, what you grew, because
Right.
it's fine to know
how
nothing.
you think credit cards are used.
Yeah.
Yeah. How you think debt should
How
be
did
used.
your family budget? How do you
Is
budget?
debt necessary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, talk about your past experience with
Just
money.
be
your
open,
current experience
guys.
with money,
Come
your
on.
goals. Biggest thing right there. Goals
Yeah.
with money.
Yeah. Financial goals.
Yeah.
Where do you see this in 30 years?
And beyond that, because it's okay to not have goals for the future. It's okay to be immature. It's okay to not have good experiences with money in the past. It's not okay to
do
not be
nothing
willing
about
to
it.
learn how
Yeah.
to deal with that.
Exactly.
So when you talk about these things, gauge the other person's reaction, and based on that reaction, make a choice on whether or not you want to be in a relationship with them.
Yep. Because it's the number one cause of divorce.
Yep. Assuming you're not dating for fun. A lot of people date for fun, which is fine. But when you start to take that next serious step, I'd say the first thing you should talk about is finances, and more so what their reactions are.
Yep. Agreed. Well, this
Cool.
has been a nice episode,
has.
Derry.
It's
I
been fun.
appreciate you doing this with me.
You're welcome.
Till next time.
Till next time.
Mental Odyssey is a Dream and Do podcast, produced and edited by yours truly. The music is owned by Chill Hop, and this song is Velocities by Sleepy Fish. Go check them out. Thanks for being here.